So imagine a city that was built for just one single purpose, to inspire absolute jaw-dropping awe. Well, about 2,500 years ago, right in the heart of the huge Persian Empire, a place just like that really existed. Today, we're going to explore the incredible ruins of that grand statement in stone, Persepolis. And that brings up a really fascinating question, right? If you're the ruler of the largest empire the world has ever seen, how do you even begin to build a capital that just screams power? How do you project your authority so clearly that nobody would dare question it? For the Achaemenid kings, the answer wasn't in laws or even in armies. Nope, it was carved directly into stone. Okay, so first, let's get clear on what Persepolis was, and maybe more importantly, what it wasn't. It's located in modern-day Iran, but this was never a bustling city full of homes and markets. You gotta think of it more like a grand imperial stage built between 500 and 330 BC, just for the most important ceremonies of the empire. So how did they pull it off? Well, it all starts with the basic idea behind its design, the actual blueprint for inspiring that sense of awe. The first rule of building a city of awe: you don't build it on the ground. No, you create your own mountain. The entire complex of Persepolis was constructed on this massive, man-made terrace. It literally lifted the capital above the plain, so from the very moment you laid eyes on it, you knew it was looking down on the world. And you know, this wasn't just Persian architecture. This was imperial architecture. The builders came up with this unique Achaemenid style by brilliantly blending together the cultures they had conquered. You can see Egyptian elements, you can see powerful motifs from Assyria, and the super delicate craftsmanship of Ionian Greeks. It was basically propaganda in stone, a visual message that all these different cultures were now united under one single Persian rule. All right, let's try to put ourselves in the shoes of an envoy visiting the king 2,500 years ago. You've been traveling for months, and your journey, and really your psychological test, is about to begin at the city's impossibly huge entrance. Now, this isn't just a gate, it's the first test. It's known as the Gate of All Nations, or the Gate of Xerxes, and its purpose was purely psychological. Before you could even dream of meeting the king, you had to be humbled. You had to be made to feel small by the sheer, overwhelming power of the empire you were about to enter. And guarding this entrance were these colossal creatures known as Lamasu. These are human-headed winged bulls, a symbol they borrowed from the powerful Assyrians, a well-known sign of royal authority. But, of course, the Persians made them bigger, way more imposing. They basically took a symbol of power and made it their own, but on a whole new scale. So, once you've passed through the Gate of All Nations, and you've passed that psychological test, you'd move on to the main event. It's time for an audience with the king in the grandest reception hall you could possibly imagine, the Apadana. Now, to really get what made the Apadana so breathtaking, you just need to know one architectural term: hypostyle hall. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means a massive room where the roof is held up by a dense forest of columns. And the Apadana wasn't just an example of this, it was the ultimate jaw-dropping expression of it. So just how dense was this forest of columns? Well, the Apadana was filled with 72 massive pillars, an entire forest carved out of stone. And their height? Unbelievable. Each one stretched 24 meters into the air. Now, what does a number like that even mean in real life? To put that into perspective for you, each and every one of those 72 columns was as tall as a modern 8-story building. Just pause for a second and try to picture that. You're standing in a single room where the ceiling is being supported by dozens of 8-story towers. The feeling wouldn't just be awe, it would be your own total, absolute insignificance. And as if that wasn't enough, the decoration just hammered the point home. The grand stairways leading into the Apadana were covered in these intricate carvings, showing delegations from 23 different nations of the empire, all in their native clothes, all bringing gifts and tribute. It was like a frozen parade of imperial dominance for everyone to see. But Persepolis wasn't all public spectacle and grand ceremonies. Behind all that lay the private heart of the empire, the royal palaces. So let's step behind the throne for a minute. So the complex had two main royal residences. First up was the Palace of Darius, also called the Winter Palace. It was smaller, but it's actually the best preserved building we have left today. But then came his son Xerxes, who built his own palace, the Hadish, and at more than double the size, it was a very clear and very costly statement that the son fully intended to surpass his father's legacy. And just to complete the picture of palace life, the complex also had residential quarters for the royal women. The harem of Xerxes was built in this really distinctive L shape, and it housed the wives, the concubines, and all the female attendants of the court. We've seen the grandeur, we felt the power, but like all great empires, the Achaemenid dynasty was destined to fall, and when it did, its magnificent capital was going to fall right along with it. The story of Persepolis is just immense. It spans millennia. Construction kicked off around 515 BC under Darius the Great, and it served as the empire's heart for nearly 200 years. Then, in 330 BC, it all came to a sudden, fiery end. The armies of Alexander the Great conquered Persia and burned Persepolis to the ground. But its legacy, its story, it endured, and in 1979, the ruins were finally recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And that final, destructive act leaves us with this incredible question that historians still debate to this day. Was the fire that just consumed Persepolis a chaotic accident, maybe the result of a drunken party by victorious soldiers? Or was it a cold, calculated act of political theater by Alexander the Great? A symbolic message that the Persian Empire wasn't just defeated, but was being utterly erased from history. That's a question the ruins themselves may never answer.